Birds coming to you again from Detroit, Michigan. I'm Ken.
I'm Val.
We're the Nerdy Birds, and we've got another full week of geek news for you guys. And I was looking when I was editing our last video, I noticed that I fidget a whole lot. And I do say that I have ADD, so I don't know if you are watching this today and you watched the previous one and I'm getting on your nerves. Just know I was getting on my nerves as well. So I'm going to try, I've got my scepter, so I'm going to try to keep this in hand so I don't, I was constantly wringing my hands together. So it was as weird for me to watch as it might have been for you guys. So note that it is noted. I want to start, I have my script here, but I caught something right before I left my desktop to come up here and do this, was that there is a YouTube user by the name of Slaykone, S-L-A-Y-K-O-N-E, who has done a very comprehensive breakdown about, spoiler alert, 321, who was killed by Negan just by using camera angles and a numbering system. And I won't say here who it is, but it's who, according to their logic, their calculations, it's who it is that happens in the comics. And I have more to say on that later. It's further down in my script, so I'm just going to move on because I'm infuriated. So we're going to start out with video games. Again, like last week, I just want to let you know that, my sister, her video game experiences, if it's not Mortal Kombat, then it doesn't matter. So, Fallon. Mm-hmm. Tom Clancy's The Division is breaking all sorts of records. MCV UK reported on April 4th that Ubisoft's RPG shooter hybrid has enjoyed 4 weeks as number one on the GfK Entertainment All Formats Top 40. Wow. So GfK is a global market research firm. It's kind of like a Nielsen or an Ipsos. So, it's a pretty big deal. It's a pretty big deal, because it's global. So there's more to that, though. It's the first time any title in Ubisoft's history has reached that goal. Mm-hmm. And also, The Division has sold more copies in 24 hours than any of Ubisoft's previous titles. Wow. Including the prolific Assassin's Creed, because they come out with Assassin's Creed video game every time I breathe. It's also the fastest selling IP, far outpacing Destiny, Activision's popular shooter.
What does IP mean?
Intellectual property. Also, The Division beat out Gran Turismo at 4's record for being the best-selling Q1 release. Wow. So the game is going gangbusters, which is interesting because Mark, we got the email for the demo when it came out, and Mark played it. I didn't get a chance to, and he really wasn't impressed. So his meter must be off this time. Okay, so when it comes to video games, where there's popularity, there's also cheating. So and The Division is no exception. With that in mind, Ubisoft is bringing down the hammer on cheaters.
How do you cheat?
Okay, so they do things. Well, I think I read in the article, and the article that I read came from. So you got me off my mark here.
I'm sorry.
I have to get close because a girl is old. Engadget. So Engadget's article said that I guess they do things like they do cheats where the bullet can go fly through like concrete walls and stuff until it hits a target. Maybe an infinite number of ammunition stuff. So those are the cheats. So Ubisoft is having none of it. There was, I was reading earlier this week, there was a glitch that was happening in games, something about backpacks, like you could only learn, if you loaded it to a certain weight, it would be a game-breaking patch. I mean, game-breaking glitch. So it would, once you did that and got to that point, it would just constantly cycle in the load screen. Yeah, so they are coming out. They were already coming out with a patch next Tuesday, April 12th. But so that what they're going to include with this patch is some kind of cheating countermeasures. So if you're playing in the game, you know a cheater, then you can type into the game console. Yeah, I think it's like player name in brackets and then cheating, and Ubisoft will flag them and check it out. And if it's true, then they put them on like a 3-day timeout. And if the player continues to cheat, then they're going to be permanently banned, which I think is something they do with Assassin's Creed already.
So for the people whose game breaks, do they get a new game? Does the patch work for the games that are
Well, it's not a literal game break. It's like, okay, so let's say you're playing Mortal Kombat and you're in story mode, and you get, because I don't play Mortal Kombat. I would love to. I have
your loss.
I have so much going on, but when you go to story mode, let's say you get 3/4 of the way through the story, and it's saved, but you get to a point where your backpack causes the glitch, right? And so now you can't fight anymore. Instead of, I don't know exactly how it would work, but I was assume that you'd have to start from the beginning. So that's how it breaks your game. You can't even use your save file anymore. You have to completely start anew. So it doesn't like physically break it.
I know that. I didn't know if it like only showed that loading screen every time you try to play it, or
yeah, no, you have to do, I believe, a brand new gameplay. So just wait, for April 12th, which is pretty soon, and report your cheaters, or don't cheat. Don't cheat. Don't you feel good when you can beat a game based off your own skill?
But I think that's going to open up all types of cans of worms, because is there like anonymity for the people who report cheaters? Because say you only play with a specific group of people,
and then
you can narrow it. Right, they'll know that you were the nerd.
I don't know if the article said if you could report anonymously.
They may want to look into that.
Yeah, maybe so. So when we were discussing Final Fantasy 15 last week, I really misinformed. I was regarding the time that fans have been waiting. Like, I was so far off the mark. They have, in fact, been waiting longer than those of us waiting for Fallout 4. It's been 10 years. Oh. They announced Fallout 15 at, I believe, 2016's E3. Like, it was announced, right, that it was coming. So that makes it all the worse, it makes it, so I'm sorry. I was trying to, I think, do my head calculations, so I looked to see when Final Fantasy 14 came out, and it was just a matter of a few years. So I'm like, well, they couldn't have announced Final Fantasy 15 before 14, right? So that was my bad. I'm so sorry. But moving on. Even though it's been 10 years, fans have not gotten jaded. Demand is crazy.
That's how it was with Mortal Kombat, though.
Yeah. So, they released, I guess a few days ago, they released, they opened up for pre-orders for the Ultimate Collection Edition, Ultimate Collector's Edition for Final Fantasy 15. I think it comes with like a Noctis figure. It's about as tall as our mic here, maybe a little bit taller, and some other goodies, and sold out almost immediately. And so it seems that people were downloading. It's it's 10 o'clock and I'm old. People were ordering more than one copy so that they could resell, because people were complaining. I think it was some resale pre-orders that were as high as $700.
That's why I hate that.
Right. So
fucking capitalism.
Fucking capitalism. So the director of Final Fantasy 15, Hajime Tabata, has come out. He went to Final Fantasy's Twitter and said that they are working on producing more Ultimate Collector's Edition units. And when they discover who has been ordering what he called abnormal ordering, more than one, and for the purpose of resale, they will be dealt with.
Ooh.
So, if you're one of those people, jerks who did that, sucks to be you.
You're gonna be on a list somewhere.
If you're bummed, though, that you can't get a collector's edition, like, you couldn't get in there, or you just don't have the money for it, but you may be able to spend time at E3, you are in luck, so perk up. PSU.com tells us that some lucky folks won't have to wait until September to play the game because it will be fully playable at Square Enix's booth at E3 2016, and that's in June. So, there's always a silver lining to every cloud. Speaking of E3, the Bethesda showcase will be open to the public. This will be Bethesda's second time in history being at E3, and last year they had their showcase open to the public, and it'll be the same this year, except there's going to be more playable demos. They're going to have like refreshments. They're going to have hosted interviews and a whole bunch of other stuff. So it sounds like it's going to be a whole lot of fun, and I'm sad that we won't be able to be there. I know we're poor and we're too far away. And so this just in, I got this today when I was editing the script. Polygon is reporting that there is now a PC mod that gives Fallout New Vegas Fallout 4's quick loot capability. And so, Fal, you remember when I got the game and I was telling you that that one of the things that I really liked was that if you were looking for loot in containers, you could just hover them your cursor over the container and it shows right away what's in there. Okay, so that's what this mod does, because this is the first time they've had that capability. So, but it's only for PC. And also, and so who made this? Might have wrote down their name, and it looks Spanish. It's like Hilandro Hiora. I hope I said that right.
You did.
Lots of X's. And so it doesn't say whether this person is working on it or if anybody has worked on it for Fallout 3. They just did this for New Vegas. So who knows? That might be in the works. Keep your eyes peeled. But that's going to make it a lot more fun.
Are you going to go back and play the other games?
I'm already playing it. So I never thought I'd be able to use the term good guy and Sony in the same sentence, but a Sony employee has made a custom controller for a player who has cerebral palsy. Business Insider tells us that a guy named Peter Byrne wrote Sony's technical support and was saying that the problem that he was having was he was constantly hitting the trackpad, which would pause his game, and if there was any way that he could disable it. So they forwarded the email over to Alex Nawabi, who works in Sony's, I had it right there, retail marketing operations department. And so he was able to mod a controller where he disabled the trackpad and then put a button on the rear of the controller that functioned as the trackpad, so that Peter still had, the ability to, but he wouldn't be constantly hitting it. So, I thought that was pretty cool, and I think, that it should, bring a light to the fact that there are a lot of people who play who are disabled in one way, differently abled, pardon me, who could benefit from things like that. So I don't know if maybe, the big manufacturers, Nintendo, Sony, Microsoft, want to start, doing that, or maybe there might be an enterprising, young individual who could do that, offer that service. I think that the opportunity is here. So just keep that in mind.
That guy's gonna get his angel wings.
I know, I think so. But he did, it's worth me noting that he did tell Peter that, this of course voided the warranty for the controller. And also, it's only gonna last as long as the, controller lasts. Right, so he should keep that in mind. But it was still a nice thing to do. Okay, so I tried not to bring up Donald Trump. I do not want to give this dude airtime, and I don't even like to really bring him up in my personal life, but like a rash, he pops
place.
he pops up on everything. And he touches everything, so he's, utterly unavoidable. So EA recently had to make moves to pull a fan-made Donald Trump propaganda video. I guess sometime last week, Donald Trump retweeted a video that a fan made that uses Martin Sheen's dialogue, and I guess it was from he was in, I think, Mass Effect 3. So they took his dialogue from the game, and they pulled the video already. But I got this article from.
I thought that video game players would be smarter than to be Donald Trump fans.
Well, it takes all types here. We're a big, happy, dysfunctional family.
Right.
So this news is coming from. I need to highlight it.
You need to get your glasses, Mabel.
No, because I'm nearsighted. Okay, so apparently I didn't attribute this. But anyway, so...
That's that crack journalism.
You know what? I'm
hot.
You know what?
My back.
All right, so you know what? Let me finish this, but I do want to say that we're drinking... Okay, I'm not drinking. We got our glasses say this might be wine.
It's not wine.
It's, neither one of it's wine. And, I'm abstaining until Game of Thrones. So this is Diet Dr. Pepper. But you want to say what you're having?
Yes, this is a little finger, and I also I can't attribute who I got the recipe from, but it's on Pinterest for under like Game of Thrones drinks, and it's just 1 ounce of tequila. I got salsa tequila and orange juice, and you garnish it with a little bit of orange. Because the wine glass was so big, I went ahead and tripled that recipe because I'm at home and I'm not a danger to anyone but myself at this point.
And you can smell it like me sitting here. It's Trey strong. I can't believe that It is. Like, this is gonna be the hardest 2 weeks.
Peer pressure.
No, I'm committed. I'm not going to deliver this sobriety baby. Okay, so I say all that to say that's why she's hot. We got these hot ass lights that you guys can't see. We got our hot,
hair.
Also the hair, and I can't believe I didn't attribute this. Okay, but back to the Donald Trump thing. I digress. So they didn't
all in your face. I'm so sorry.
I didn't even notice. I'm like, is it my armpit? So whoever the article I got this from, because I've gone over this paragraph like 3 times, I don't see it. Whichever news source I got this from, they had just like a screenshot of the video. I guess it had already been pulled down. So, was it a video? It was a video of Donald Trump, but it had Martin Sheen's voice. I'm guessing because EA had already pulled it down, so I don't know. But it had Trump effect on the front, and so it was using Mass Effect's font. So they were already using, unless those two are 2 different assets that that are
racism. Misogyny.
And so that EA was like, we really don't want our games associated with anything political. But, I think that's kind of code for IDK, anybody but Trump 2016. Like, they might not.
I'm sure that's not the first time.
Right. Like,
happened.
It could have been Bernie and they would have let it slide.
Right.
But not Trump.
Like, we haven't seen the video, but
All right, so MCV. I think that was from MCV UK. That's why it's not attributed. So MCV UK tells us that Gears of War will be released. Gears of War 4, will be released in October. And from IGN, the game will have split screen capability regardless of which mode you're playing it in. Remedy wants to make the sharing of gameplay for their titles easier, but they're not here for your cheating ass. MCV UK says that Remedy has made a move to make it easier for gaming streamers to share their content via YouTube. So now they can disable copyrighted music that is within game, because YouTube's Content ID system is super fucked. And it's, they flagged, I don't know who it was, EA or somebody. So they content ID'd some of their music, and one of their subsidiaries. So let's say it's EA USA content ID their music, and so somebody from EA Central America posted something that says, this video has been disabled.
Oh, wow.
Like it's the same company. That's how screwed up it is.
Wow.
So, gamers have been, tagged, and they're losing revenue because, it's so wonky. So Remedy is trying to take a step to prevent that from happening by allowing them to disable music just in case something's content ID'd. But also, so you can play, and that's not just for everybody, it's for Quantum Break, I should have said. And so also, for Quantum Break. So, this is not bad editing. There was a cut in, video because our camera cord, USB cord, is super sensitive, and so it shut off the camera. So, and what's very funny is we knew it. We restarted the camera and didn't hit record. So we've been sitting here for like half an hour talking,
just shooting the shit,
about nothing. So, as far as Quantum Break goes, so we went over the content ID. So also, with PC gamers only being able to get it, it's through Windows Game Market, I guess. I don't know, it's a Windows Games exclusive, and maybe just exclusive to Windows 10, I'm not sure. But if you cheat on the game, it's going to make the game annoying for you by applying an eye patch with a skull and crossbones on it over Sean Astin's Jack Joyce. So, I mean, if you really want to play the game, I really don't see how that's going to be much of a deterrent. But maybe there are some people who really...
Okay, that's Sean Astin. Is that Goonie Sean Astin?
No, that's...
Or is it Austin? Sean Austin.
Who's the dude? His mother just died. That's who I think.
That's the Lord of the Rings Goonies kid.
Right, and so Sean Astin is not him.
Okay.
I can't remember what you would know Sean Astin from, but they're not the same dude. Yeah, so, it's really...
I mean, it doesn't matter, but I was just curious.
Yeah, no, we can satisfy your curiosity. I just can't tell you where you know him from. Because he was on a TV show, I think.
Troy McClure here. You may know me from such films.
So anyway, back to Quantum Break.
I really miss Phil Hartman.
Yeah, oh my God, rest in peace, man. He was great. So you get this eye patch, and I believe they did it for Assassin. It was a Remedy, so it counts for Alan Wake. I believe they did it for Alan Wake. But what's screwed up about it is the system, the cheating deterrent system, relies on you being signed in. That's how it checks to see, if it's a legit copy or not. So if something happens, like, we have Uverse. We lost our Uverse today, so we were playing this.
And last night.
So if, we happen to have Quantum Break and, we're trying to play through this outage, we would have had to play with him having an eye patch because it wouldn't recognize us as users. So I don't remember if the article which came from...
But in all fairness to Microsoft, you cannot log on if your connection is down. Well, that's not true. The connection was really, really spotty when I...
Well, yeah, it was spotty last night.
But I couldn't sign on to Microsoft,
right,
to my Xbox, through my tablet, because you can play Xbox games through your Windows 10. And if your connection is down or not reliable, it just won't load, period. So when the internet finally came up, I was able to get on, and then it kind of got spotty, and I was able to stay on. But I guess if your internet connection is down in the beginning, then you just can't log on to play through your PC at all. I don't know how that works, because I wasn't on my 360, so I'm not sure if it's the same.
Well, I don't think, because people were complaining, so I don't think that's the case. And I don't know, maybe it was, an issue with your tablet. but for a full desktop PC, or maybe it's a powerful gaming laptop.
Yeah, maybe it's a little bit different.
Yeah, it might be different because that's what brought it out, was that some people were complaining that I bought the game.
Oh, and then maybe that's the difference if you got a disc that's in there.
Well, this is a digital download. It's not a disc. It's a digital download. Right. So I
can see, because I could still access the internet. It was just slower.
Right. Yeah. Right. So for this, like, if you have so I'm presuming, I haven't bought anything off the Windows. I think the first time I bought Fallout 3, it was for PC. And it was on disc, so I didn't have to digitally download it. But I'm presuming, like, there's going to be a desktop icon.
Well, if it's downloaded, then you should be able to pull it up.
Right. But that's the way that the system checks it.
That's what I was doing. That's different.
Right. And so the system, if it checks it and it doesn't, detect an internet connection, is feeling like you stole it.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, I didn't steal it. That just, either the internet went down, or maybe I'm too poor.
They need to,
they do.
input the serial numbers of the games that they sell, and then that way the system can detect what's pirated and what's not.
And I'm sure that it does make you do that. You have to, every game that I've downloaded, you have to put the serial number in before you can go any further. So why, it also requires an internet connection for validation? I don't know.
Yeah, get your shit together, Microsoft.
Right, and I don't remember, this came from MCV UK as well. I don't remember the article saying if Microsoft was working on a fix, or if, I think they were just kind of nonchalant about it, like, just try to wait.
Because I don't know a person alive who has not had their internet connection go down at some point.
Right. I think they were kind of just like, just wait until your internet connection comes back up. That's a non-answer.
Because I paid you my money.
Right. I should be able to play whatever I want. So,
I own this. Run my shit.
Yeah, so, sorry about your luck if you're in that situation. But something that just popped up really quickly from GameSpot's website that's kind of related is that Alan Wake's, he had a couple of add-ons before they came out with American Nightmare. So it's called The Signal and the Writer. And they are now free on Xbox Live. You can get it for either 360 or for the Xbone. So if you don't have it, run out and get them.
I hate Live because every time I would try to play Mortal Kombat against the little kids playing, I would get my butt whooped, and I would take it. I take my whooping. But whenever I would begin to win, they rage quit on me.
Yeah, that's why I don't even bother. Like, I single play all the time.
And say horrible things about my mother.
Right. And it's like, you don't even know my mom. You know what? She would reject you.
She whooped that ass is what would happen.
She would. I'm a gangster. So
she told me the cracked house story today. Do you not know the cracked house story? It is inappropriate for this. I will tell you later.
Okay. All right.
Except for everybody I know about this.
So, moving on. Since the citizens of the interwebs have determined that fat shaming is not okay, start this over. So all the special snowflakes on the internet have determined that fat shaming is not okay. And I say this as clearly a larger person. Naughty Dog has decided to remove the Donut Drake skin from Uncharted 4.
Boo.
Right, and so you guys missed it, because while we were talking about it, not knowing that my, record button wasn't red, I showed...
I need to look out for that more often.
Yeah, it would be helpful. I showed my sister, because I had explained to her who Nathan Drake was and all that, and so...
And when you said Donut Drake, I thought you were talking about the rapper Drake. And I'm like,
well, that would be even funnier.
Why is he in the video game?
Yeah, so, they just... Naughty Dog felt like they matured past, making fun of people. But we were discussing, it's like, okay, you could look at it as a joke, because not only is he larger, but his voice is deeper as well. So I don't know if, I don't play Uncharted, my son plays it. But so I don't know if like he comes with like doofus type antics as well.
But he did have that food stained shirt.
He does have. I mean, it's so grimy.
He was cute.
Yeah, I thought so. I would holler. You know, yeah, I know.
Like, what is this?
Yeah, like I would rub his belly, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, the only problem I could see with it, besides people being sensitive, you know, that he's, and maybe it's because it's called Donut Drake as well. You know, the only way I could really see people being, you know, offended is if he was also kind of like, you know, cumbersome and, you know, clumsy and, you know, just knocking over precious relics, you know.
That would be offensive.
But just in and, you know, him being large in and of itself is not, you know,
offensive.
It's not offensive. And you think about how many larger gentlemen who may have been looking forward to, you know, applying the skin so they can play competently, like as a competent large relic hunter.
I'd like to see a healthy katana.
Yeah.
Taking some heads off.
Yeah, but they, you know, they decided to err on the side of caution and remove that. And so that news comes from IGN. So speaking of Uncharted, now that Naughty Dog has wrapped up the game, their chief, I think I want to say chief director, Neil Druckmann, says now they have time to start working on Last of Us 2. So keep your eyes peeled for that. And that comes from moviepilot.com.
I got my fingers tingling in my head.
So,
I got it loose.
unfortunately, my sister was not able to see the Deadpool movie because she has a 7-year-old ball and chain.
It was highly impressionable.
and of course, that wasn't a movie appropriate for 7-year-olds. But I'm going to show her later some dude dedicated many weeks of his life, and he lost a couple of graphics boards on his PC to recreate shot for shot the Deadpool trailer using GTA 5. Franklin was Deadpool. It's amazing. I'm going to put the link to it in the link up. You got to check it out. And that comes from moviepilot.com as well. So Hideo Kojima, I had to explain while we were talking, not knowing that the camera wasn't recording,
We'll get this shit together one day.
One day, you know. It's our second episode out from coming back, you know. And
we worked so hard to get it right earlier.
It just, karma. My karma's the worst. But anyway.
Like a nun rapist.
I must have been like in a previous life, like I was Jack the Ripper.
I was going to say something political and stop myself.
I'm so glad. So Hideo Kojima is receiving the 2016 Develop Brighton Conference.
Dismissively.
No, I'm just because we could go there. You know what I'm saying? And I really don't want to offend people, so I'm trying to stay as politically bland as I can. So Hideo Kojima, everybody knows now that he used to be a lead developer at Konami. He was responsible for the Metal Gear games, chiefly. He had other titles, but that's the one he's most known for. And then also he was going to revive Silent Hills with Guillermo del Toro. I can never pronounce his name. Guillermo del Toro and Norman Reedus.
That's the man who sometimes worked with Quentin Tarantino.
Right, which is much easier to say. Yeah, they were going to bring back Silent Hills, and Konami was like, we don't know. You know, we want to spend the money on something like this. And, you know, canceled the game and unceremoniously parted ways with him. And all of us in the gaming world kind of like wagged our fingers in shame at Konami. So, you know, it's pretty cool that he's getting this recognition. It's overdue, and it's well-deserved. And he's also going to share the discussion on the future of games with Mark Cerny, who won this prestigious award the year before last. So, you know, congrats to Hideo-san. You deserve it.
Congratulations.
So while the bad taste of Konami is still in my mouth, I have to say that they are releasing a series of vinyl soundtracks on vinyl for some of their key games, which is Silent Hill, Castlevania, and Contra. And so I recently, coincidentally, purchased a new turntable because I wanted to get back into record collecting. And so this news makes me wish rather that you could bootleg vinyl, because I really want like the Silent Hill one.
Some guy knows.
Somebody's gonna figure it out. Yeah, because I really want the Silent Hill one, but I don't want to give Konami any of my money. And that news is from Polygon. So we have 4. I am not hot. Are you?
Yes, I'm extremely.
I mean, I appreciate it, but then again, I'm not drinking tequila. So
that's because you're a quitter. You're from a family of quitters. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
I'm coming back. Don't worry. You made me lose my track. Okay, so I have to admit we have 4 to 5 gaming consoles in this house, and it's partly because we don't like to share, but mostly because my son, he's the only one who really plays online multiplayer consistently, and he wanted to be able to play with all of his friends, and so a game will come out, and sometimes it'll be on Xbox, sometimes it'll be on PlayStation, it might be an exclusive for either or, and so we have all these consoles, chiefly because he could not play across platforms. Right. Well, Microsoft is saying, and this news is coming from I don't want to say MCV UK, but
I need you to get.
I'm going to have to. Oh, so it's from CNET. I'm so glad. I need to start highlighting, because I have them peppered through the paragraph. So I need to start highlighting it. Anyway, so CNET is saying that Microsoft says that they are okay with cross-platform gaming. And so they say that the only thing that's in the way of it is politics, because a few weeks back, Sony has said they are willing to support it as well. So the politics comes in with game developers getting on board with it. Microsoft.
We ain't never say we had a problem with it. That was y'all.
Yeah, Microsoft said they did not want to be in a position where they had to force developers to make their games cross-platform. Right. So we were wondering, we're not game developers. I can personally attest to being ignorant of the process, but to me it seems like it would be easier. Right. Like maybe they have to code just to restrict
That's what I was thinking. There have to be protocols in place so that it doesn't play on certain platforms.
So maybe they can kind of eliminate, whatever lines of code that goes with that.
So you think that Sony and Microsoft is like, don't sign this paper giving us exclusivity for your intellectual property?
I wouldn't doubt it. I honestly wouldn't doubt it.
Don't do it. Don't.
Yeah. Wink.
If you don't want to make a whole lot of money, don't sign this paper.
All right, so now we're moving on to movies, and this is around the time that, we realized that we weren't recording anymore.
Took a lot out of it.
So, a nice segue from video games to movies comes from HellHorror.com, which is reporting that Sam Raimi's The Last of Us movie is in development hell. And this is news for me because I never took seriously that this movie was in development, because it was always, whenever I came across the news, it was from clickbait sites. Like I would see the headlines and it was from a clickbait site, and I wouldn't read into it. And I knew it was clickbait because they always say like Maisie Williams is supposed to play Ellie, and I'm like, she's not going to stay a pipsqueak forever. She's even big to be playing Arya Stark at this point. So I just never took it seriously. But it turns out that it's true that the movie was in development. It's just it's stuck. So I hope whatever, I don't remember seeing the article exactly what's holding it up. Maybe it's then I just don't remember. But
I'm glad you put it down.
I feel like I would have written it down if there was something significant there, so it may not have stated it, but don't quote me on that, because people will go and say, like, what says right fucking here? She's so lazy. Right. And I am. But regardless, I just hope whatever's holding it up, they loosen, they whatever's gunking up the cogs of progress.
If they can come up with another goddamn Jason 29, then they can do this.
You think so? And it sucks because it's such a beautiful game. It's a cinematic game, aesthetically. So it's it's a slam dunk to be a movie. Yeah. So I just hope that gets together. So speaking of development hell, we got all the way to Dark Tower when we realized it. Okay. So anyway, speaking of development hell, Warner Brothers has finally, well, I won't say finally, but Warner Brothers has secured a writer for their Dr. Sleep adaptation. Dr. Sleep, again, is a Stephen King book. It's the sequel to The Shining, and
it's fucking awesome.
And so, it may be fortunately or unfortunately, they have tapped, I'll make sure I say this person's name right, we can't say if he's a woman or she's a lady. Akiva Goldsman. And so I say that. And so you'll see why I say unfortunately for our next news article item. But so that news comes from sciencefiction.com. But from denofgeek.com, they have a very neat, very useful, comprehensive breakdown for the progress of the Dark Tower film TV property.
So they're still doing it as a television show and then movies?
Presumably. And so I was going to get to that, and then we realized we weren't recording. Right. So just to rehash for you, it turns out, there was this big hoopla about Abby Lee being cast as a female lead. But when
we were the ones making the hoopla, to be honest.
Well, because this was being reported.
Us and one other person.
That she was going to be the female lead. She was going to be named Tirana. And Tirana, we've come to find out, was, you don't do that. That's what started. Tirana was a Cantois, and she had a very, very minimal role, which is, neither one of us, and we've read the books, could remember who she was. And everybody who read the books, online saying they couldn't remember. So it was one person who was like, oh, she was Cantois, she was at Devertois, the neighborhood that when they fought.
Okay.
You know what the
I know what the Devertois is. It's when
so, but I'm saying
they were breaking the thingy.
Yeah, but I'm saying it right is what I'm asking.
Yeah.
Devertois. Okay, so that's where she's from. So
then she wasn't Mordred's nurse then if she was there.
Okay, all right. So Den of Geek said, everybody got their panties in a bunch for no reason.
Could be, but I don't think so.
Because she is not a female lead. She'll be performing pretty much in the capacity of the character in the book does, which is nominal.
But that's still odd to me because, that role wasn't very big to begin with.
So why would they make such a big deal?
Right, and then why would they cast her? Like, why would you cast? Not just her, because I'm pretty sure she's great, but anyone.
Right. That'd
be like casting guy number 3.
Right. Who knows? Who knows at this point? But right now, Den of Geek is saying that that's not the case. She's not a female lead. So don't worry. Because we were worried that they were going to erase Susanna.
And that's why they're saying that.
Probably.
Oh, don't worry.
Right, and then Susanna never shows up. And so, so the reason, though, they're saying that we have not heard anything about Susanna and we haven't been confirmed if Aaron Paul is going to be Eddie Dean is because they're going to start sort of in the middle of the story. And so initially, and why I was saying unfortunately with the Dr. Sleep news, is that Akiva Goldsman and I keep forgetting this dude's name. Jeff Pinkner, for all intents and purposes, right? Their original script was just, it was a cluster. It was a cluster. There's no other way to talk about it because they were going to place Jake Chambers in a psychiatrist's office. And presumably he's with the psychiatrist because he's been telling everybody about all these adventures he's been having with Roland in Midworld, and they're just like, okay. So he's talking to the psychiatrist, and the psychiatrist was, written to be very stereotypical and one-dimensional. And so Jake leaves, so they're in like either 90s Manhattan or current day Manhattan, so he leaves the apart. And he leaves the psychiatrist's office, and he's, desperately trying to find a way to get back to Midworld. So Stephen King was like, hang on. You can't do this unless you open the movie the way that I opened the book, and that's with the man in black fled across the desert, and the gunslinger followed. So they brought in Thomas Jensen to do a rewrite, but Den of Geek is saying that he just kind of tweaked the script, that he really didn't dramatically change it all that much, but it should open with a shot of Roland walking across the desert and maybe heading towards Tull. But however it plays out, he's going to end up at the way station where Jake was. And this happens, I'm not going to spoil what happens, but it happens sometimes after Roland meets up with creatures called lobstrosities. And so his encounter with the lobstrosities leave him pretty kind of dejected, and he's very much ready to give up on finding the Dark Tower. And so he runs into Jake at this way station, and Jake kind of tells him, get your shit together, and your mission is true, your quest is true. And so what I failed to mention, Fallon, and this is probably why Roland may be dejected, is that when they show him in the desert, he has the Horn of Eld. So, again, I don't want to spoil.
You see, I didn't interrupt you not one. And then the first time, and I interrupted her several times. We spent about 10 minutes off topic. I spoiled several plots in the book. And this time, I didn't say shit.
Yeah, but I just feel like when I said Horn of Eld, did you? Yeah. So, I don't want to spoil any of the plot, but the Horn of Eld holds some significance, and its significance really...
How can you report this just so blithely?
Because it's what I've chosen to do as my, as a job. So, I mean, that's not to say that I'm not kind of boiling, but...
So sad.
So he has the horn. I wish I could go into more detail about why this is significant, but it kind of, explains why maybe Jake is the one giving him encouragement this time.
Does it really make any fucking sense? No.
It doesn't.
It's like, okay, you want a script for the movie. Take the book and you copy the fucking pages. And then you give that to the actors.
Okay, so...
And you say, you read this. And then you get some cameras. And then you go to a place that looks like the place that's described in the book. And then you record the actors saying the words from the book. And then bingo bango, there's your movie.
Right, and so in an ideal setting... But, okay, if this helps you any, apparently they have a greatly reduced budget to do this. And there are so many... Like, if you think Game of Thrones has a lot of shit in it, Game of Thrones has nothing on Dark Tower.
No.
So it would be astronomically expensive to film this as it is. So they have to kind of make tweaks.
But then I could see them cutting out Toll and maybe, Roland and Jake meeting at the beginning, because
right.
you cut out a lot.
Yeah. But you don't think it justified? Because I think they kind of have to mold
that doesn't justify
the narrative.
What Roland has. No.
Okay, I'm trying to be understanding here, but I want it to be a page to script.
Then don't make it. Then just don't make it. Just
just leave it alone. But Hollywood's about that cash.
Because if you're gonna make it a TV series and movies, then there's no reason to have to cut out all of that stuff. Then you're going to have to add stuff.
Okay, so I was going to move on and say that they're omitting Roland's childhood and the events that happened in his childhood to save
the whole Wizard in the Glass is going to be taken out?
And put into the TV series.
I can't get behind this.
Okay, so we're just going to move on.
I'm so upset right now.
I'm
frothy on the inside.
It's hot. Hooray for Hollywood!
I just hate it so much. Then just don't do it. Then just don't fucking do it. Stephen King, how dare you let them do this stuff to your book?
Well, wasn't he the one who said, like, he's so agreeable that his mom was like, if you were a girl, you would be constantly pregnant?
Oh, poor thing.
He can't say no.
Because, I mean, the two best movies that ever came from Stephen King books, The Shawshank Redemption and The Green Mile, and they were basically the books filmed. So it's like, let's do that. Let's not make Christine again.
No, they're like, I am going to put my stamp on this.
Needful Things, that is my litmus test.
Like, does it pass? And it won't.
Does it pass the Needful
because there's so many pitfalls. Because it's so fantastical, there are just so many pitfalls. Even if they had the money to do everything, there are just so many pitfalls that it's going to be screwed.
You know what? It bothers me because I feel like writers and directors, they change things out of the books because they feel like, okay, this book has in the scope of viewership for movies in total, it has a very narrow group of, and it has a very narrow audience, and they're trying to make it because
that's what they did with Game of Thrones, I believe.
And they're trying to make it palatable to this wide audience, but they feel like doing that means they have to dumb it down.
Right.
And they don't. They just need to realize that a lot of people who go and watch movies also don't read. That doesn't mean that they can't read.
Or that
they don't.
Right. Or they can't put two and two together. Because that's my gripe with Game of Thrones is they've cut out so much crucial information by, completely cutting plot lines or, saving them, I guess like the Greyjoy plot line is going to be, it should have been last season and they're saving it for this season. It's confusing. Right. So I think especially for people who don't read the, the original
then they
books,
need to know everything.
They need, and you don't want to handhold, but, there are some very important points in these plots that would make sense, like, completely cutting out Ariane's queen-making plot really didn't bring home the importance of Dorne.
Right.
And so that's it's going to happen for Dark Tower.
To me, it's just so condescending. It's like, well, if they don't read the books, then they cannot grasp.
Right.
The
they really don't appreciate. They don't appreciate.
And it's like, that's not true. Maybe they don't have the time to read. Maybe they don't enjoy it.
Right.
Not everybody enjoys reading.
Oh well.
Not everybody enjoys reading the way they like watching movies. Just like I don't enjoy watching movies the way that I like reading.
Right.
Like I don't think it's fair. I think it's a cheap cop out and it's lazy and just if you're gonna do that, then just don't do it.
Yeah, hey, just leave it alone. Let it live in the books.
Because I'm passionate about that.
All right, so I hope found that this next news item will kind of. All right, so yourweb.com, and it's EUR, YourWeb, is reporting that Ice Cube and Charlie Day are teaming up for a movie that's coming out in 2017 called Fist Fight.
What?
The basic premise is that they're both teachers, and Charlie Day gets Ice Cube fired. So Ice Cube comes back to challenge Charlie Day to a fist fight.
Do they want my money now?
You gotta wait till 2017.
Who could I give it to now?
You gotta wait till 2017. Okay, so I always try to keep some sort of congruity when I'm writing my scripts. I try to keep, related topics together. But it's all kind of loosies from here on out. For instance, Sean Penn has been cast as a voice actor for the upcoming Angry Birds movie. I didn't know they were making an Angry Birds movie, but it's nice to see
voices.
But it's nice to see that they're casting appropriate actors.
Yeah.
And that's from IGN.
That's an angry son of a bitch.
He's the angriest bird I know.
But they only say,
well, so, they're going to give him speaking roles then.
Okay.
Jesus F. Christ.
So we're too stupid to be able to follow plot lines, but smart enough. You know what?
So after the abysmal failure of Batman vs Superman,
but I thought they did well. Like it wasn't critically acclaimed, but
they made a lot of money the first weekend, and then they made less than half the money. There was like a 67% drop in box office the next weekend.
I'll take it.
Yeah, because it's still a shit ton of money, but for Hollywood metrics purposes, it's
Do you
not.
think they care?
They do. Like, they care enough that...
I still got these new titties, my kids still...
Well, the actors, I don't think the actors really care, but, studios care. And so that's what... And so the WB...
Do you think if they recoup back not only the money they spent, but many times over that amount, do they care?
They do because...
It's not critically acclaimed?
They care because they want the money. They had an expectation for earnings, and it didn't make it. And so now they're doing, the WB is making this restructure. They're restructuring their planned rollout. And so, caught up in this, culling is Adam Wingard's Death Note Western live action adaptation. So you might not remember, but Death Note was an anime that me and the kids
remember
watched.
the name, but I don't remember the characters.
Yeah. And we got a couple of the mangas, and Adam Wingard was going to do a U.S. version, a U.S. retelling of it.
So he had nothing to do with this Batman Superman fiasco.
No, but
the
WB was financing it, and so they cut it as part of this restructuring.
Oh, that's bullshit.
But it's fine, don't worry, because Netflix has scooped it up.
Alright, Netflix to rescue it.
Right.
We got this Daredevil money.
Right, so, hopefully. And I hope this dude's, cause the Western folks cannot do, in my opinion, they can't do adaptations of Eastern properties very well. But I'm hopeful that...
That shit is subtle.
Yeah, I'm hopeful that, he can do a good job, because apparently he's doing Robert Kirkman's Outcast comic on Cinemax.
Oh,
yeah? So, and, that's something that I'm actually, I used to be current with Walking Dead, but... I'll be falling behind.
Also, Banshee is in its final season, so they got to bring something in to replace
I'm presuming that's what it is, yeah. So, filming is going to begin in June, and it's going to star Nat Wolff, presumably is whatever Western name they give Light Yagami. And Margaret Qualley will probably be the pop singing sensation Misa. Excuse me. Oh wow, how rude! Pop singing sensation Misa Amane. But these are sometime. But these are just my guesses because the article did not say. So let's stay tuned on that.
From your crack journalist brethren.
Right. We went to the same journalism school, apparently.
Try it out for yourself, goddamn. Don't got shit to do.
So, I broke my star again. I keep, just take it off. And that came from Bloody Disgusting. So me and the folks at Bloody Disgusting went to the same journalism school. So I was at Salon.com and I saw the trailer for Star Wars Rogue. And when I was writing this, I had intended to talk about how great it looks and how, these new movies are really working to convert me into a franchise fan. But along the way, I saw some things on Tumblr. Some folks had collected tweets from the Butthurts.
Oh, yeah.
About them casting another movie with... I'm going to call you a William. Another female lead. And I it's just ridiculous. So we were talking about it, and it's like, how many movies...
All of them.
Because they've got... So this will be the 8th.
Thelma and Louise was the only big movie that didn't have two female...
No, I mean just in the Star Wars universe. This was just, the main Star Wars... The one that came out was number 7. So we're not... I think there was like a standalone Ewoks movie. Mm-hmm. This is going to be a standalone movie. So they have tons of these movies, and not to mention the comic books, the animated series, and the graphic novels. So they have all these properties where I want to say almost all of them have male leads.
Because that's the way it's supposed to be.
But, so if this is less than a quarter.
Women is for cooking and sexing.
If you combine all of the properties, the movies, all of the movies, the comic books, the graphic novels, the animated series, all of that, and you divide up the ones that have male leads and female leads. You're looking at less than a quarter have female leads. But they were talking like, this is all they do.
Go again.
It's like, it's just the second one. It's just the second one. So I just, you know what? It's like, what really are you so fucking afraid of? Like, one person was like, somebody's like, the original. And so somebody responded like, like casting a dark, tall, handsome male lead is originals. It's like, they are so hurt. It's like, what?
These are remakes. How are you going to be... Well, they're not remakes, but they're basically continuations from the original film.
And times change.
How are you going to be original? The whole thing isn't original.
They just shit. They just can't. They can't. But you know what? The funny thing is that never ever crossed my mind. I was like, "Holy shit, this looks awesome!" It never, and for me who likes to keep up with like gender equality news, it never even crossed my mind that holy shit, the main character is going to be another strong female. I was just like, "This looks amazing." Right. That was the only thing that I could think of. So why are these people so hurt? Like, you know what? If you don't like it, don't watch it.
They look at that stuff for validation, and you. If you've got a P,
but you can only go
look at a V and be like, okay, I can see myself doing this.
But they can. They just won't allow themselves because
I was going to say, but not everybody can make that leap, though.
I mean, but that's weak. You weak. If you can't do it, then you're weak. Because I swear to God, there's nothing more painful than pushing another human being out of your uterus, and women do it all the goddamn time and survive. And you motherfuckers can't even take a knee to the groin without wanting to shoot yourselves in the head. It's awesome.
Push out a human being, and that human being gets stuck.
Because her baby got stuck. She had to get a C-section. Yeah. So come on.
12 hours of labor.
Women are not weak. This is the weak shit, complaining that we can't have our time in the sun just so you can feel validated. Right. That's that weak shit. You should feel validated regardless. You punk bastards. Anyway. Y'all made me lose my spots. Alright, so, Fallon. In news you probably never thought you would hear in a million years. 50 Cent is rumored to star in the next Predator movie. Oh, God.
I almost choked.
I have nerve damage, and sometimes I'm sensitive over here. That isn't really agitating me. Okay, so...
Did you ever see that movie? Did you ever see... Not the one that had the really pretty, thin black girl in it. Not the one that was kind of like his biopic. But the one with him and Ray Liotta that was supposed to be like his cinematic coming out.
It sounds familiar, but I can't put my finger on it.
I cannot remember the name of it. When I tell you, this was the worst movie to ever be filmed and released. I'm honest when I say that shit.
I bet. So, sci-fi.com
so
says...
that's a head scratcher. It's a goddamn head scratcher.
Sci-fi...
There wasn't nobody else available?
Okay, so sci-fi.com said... yeah. Long hair don't care, I guess. Shane Black is set to helm the upcoming... It's going to be called The Predator. So Fitty was at...
I don't understand.
Fitty was at Sirius XM doing an interview, and he started talking about how he, really wants to get back into feature films. And he said, yeah, so Predator, I'll do that. So the only person that's been confirmed to be in talks to star in the movie is Arnold Schwarzenegger. So we don't know.
Then they just want people with muscles.
Or he might be just making it up. Maybe he wants to be in it. So that it's not confirmed yet, but
I mean, goddamn.
So I hate when bad movies happen to good people. Kind of like when Jennifer Lawrence did, what was it called? The House at the End of the Street.
I never saw that one.
Yeah, no, I was like, why did they trap her up in this mess? So I was dismayed then when I learned that Christopher Hivju or Tormund Giantsbane has signed on to play a henchman in Fast and Furious 8. You know,
I mean, but those movies, they do very well.
You know, and far be it from me to knock anybody's hustle, and I don't want to shit on the Fast and Furious franchise.
I haven't seen Fast and Furious since the first one, because I'm like, well, shit, what else are you going to do? But they do very well.
Yeah, they do good box office, but, you know, I just feel like he's a very good actor, and maybe that movie shouldn't happen to him. But, you know, he might be the one to turn it around.
But then Charlize Theron is also going to be in it.
Oh, so maybe this will be the one. This will be the one. Yeah. This will be the one that's, you know, taken seriously cinematically. So that comes from entertainmentweekly.com. So now we're moving on to TV. So, if you watched last week's podcast, then you know that I sort of predicted that The Walking Dead was going to end on a cliffhanger. And despite my extreme desire that it not end on a cliffhanger, it did anyway. And man, were the internets tray unhappy, including myself. So even so, sciencefiction.com says that the cast have all sworn themselves to secrecy. You will not hear who bit the dust from any of them. Just their assistants. But, you know, anyway, at this point, I'm just like, you know, IDK, because, I mean, I don't care. Because, you know, they're going to make us wait 6 months, and nobody's going to care that long. Yeah. Like, the only thing I could think that they can do is
they're presuming on a lot in their
they're going to have to do just like a monster social campaign to keep people interested, because how can you go 6 months giving a damn? And I'm not even sure if they do, like Greg Nicotero showed on Instagram. There was a head, and they showed how they exploded using air instead of water. So presumably that's, you know, because in the comics, when the person is dealt with by Negan with Lucille, their head is just obliterated. There's nothing left. And so presumably that's why they're testing this, so you can get a glimpse of how they're going to pull it off when they finally switch the camera back around to third-person view. Regardless, so they just blew it for me. I couldn't believe they did that shit. So speaking of, it was probably Glenn. Whoever runs the Philadelphia Flyers.
1, 2, 3, spoiler alert.
Whoever runs the Philadelphia Flyers Twitter was super rude to Stephen Young. So
I was like, oh.
Stephen Young is from around here. I think he grew up in Troy. So he tweeted an encouragement to the Red Wings, and it was just like, let's go Red Wings. Super, you know, innocent. He wasn't disparaging anybody, but whatever a-hole runs the Flyers' Twitter decided to respond, let's go Lucille. And if you don't know, Lucille is the barbed wire bat that Negan used to...
That's what I was like, damn.
Right. So, but he took it all in stride. And he said, I'm trending in Philly. Thanks, Flyers. I barely think of you. So, never have I been more proud. And that came from csnphilly.com. So, according to Uproxx, Arrested Development's Tony Hale, who plays Buster Bluth, says that he knows for a fact that everybody wants to shoot another season. But it's looking like according to Uproxx, it's looking like writing is holding it up, and being able to get everybody in the same area at the same time.
I can see that.
Because they didn't do it for the first Netflix season.
I miss that.
Yeah.
Because their interactions are always so funny.
Right. So,
and you've got to watch it like 4 or 5 times just to get
everything. Yeah. So
I did miss that.
Once they get those two things together, we should be looking forward to a season 5 or a season 2 of Netflix's Arrested Development. So moving on to odds and ends. And for the odds and ends section, be sure to go to our linked up page because I'll be dropping all the links from this section there. So I'm fully aware that we are far and away from April Fool's Day, but it's worth mentioning that Bruce Campbell severely trolled the Whovians online when he tweeted an image of himself on what looked like a promotional image for the next season of Doctor Who. He was in front of a TARDIS saying that, he was sneaking. He couldn't say officially yet, but, to look out. So he got all these folks geeked.
Totally go for Bruce Campbell as Doctor Who.
He got all these people. I don't even remember if it was him saying he would be a doctor, just that he was going to be on it.
Don't care. But as the doctor...
But you have to be careful. You have to be careful with that because those Whovians are rabid. And that comes from Metro UK's website. Also, MAC Cosmetics is releasing a Star Wars line, and that comes from Geekology. An electrician died at Disneyland Paris. He was doing some work in their haunted house attraction, and they think he electrocuted himself because they found him early that morning, thankfully, before the attraction opened. So rest in peace to him. And that comes from Fox 2 Detroit. The chair that J.K. Rowling sat in while she was writing Harry Potter had gone on auction at the time that I wrote this, and apparently it fetched a gigantic price. Wow. I think it was over $500,000.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I wonder what the toilet that she sat in is going to be.
So, that comes from Geekology again. Darkwing Duck is getting...
What? Let's get dangerous.
It's getting... a comic book series in honor of its silver and its 25th anniversary. I'm so sorry that it's not.
You got me real geeked up.
You said, let me finish. That comes from moviepilot.com.
That was my jam.
That and Danger Man. Yeah. The Shining has an opera, Fallon. And it has been cast. And that comes from playbill.com. And speaking of C. Stephen King... I'm not going to take that any further, okay? Just to spare you. Speaking of Stephen King, and I hope you have not heard this news yet, but a bookstore in Santa Fe called Bookworks, they are hosting a chat with him, and you'll never guess who's interviewing him.
George R. R. Martin.
The very George R. R. Martin. How rad is that?
That's pretty rad. I did see. I did not read it. I didn't click on it because I thought that was more your territory. But I always thought they were going on tour together.
From what I saw, it's not. I don't know, but it seemed like they were just hosting a talk.
It was just okay.
Yeah, and he's going to interview him.
So I was like, what?
And you don't know, these are the two that we obsess over. Like in our hallway out here are huge pictures of both of them with bookshelves with their books on them. It's very serious over here. So that was just like, I was like, whoa! Wishing I could be in Santa Fe for that.
Fly on that wall.
It's going to be amazing. I hope somebody records it. And that's from BroadwayWorld.com.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So we have to add a new segment this week called R.I.P. because we lost a couple people in the nerdosphere.
You didn't even R.I.P. Pipe Dog. We slipping.
Well, I mean, I didn't really think it was nerd related. I mean, I guess hip hop is for the nerds, and that's.
And he was an well, not him, but A Tribe Called Quest was an alternative to mainstream rap that kind of got me back into enjoying rap and hip hop and listening to lyrics, and music theory and
unparalleled. So
that was never be replaced.
And they're still to this day still doing tributes for him. That's how impactful he was. So that was a huge oversight on my fault, on my part. I'm sorry, but for this week we lost a couple folks that are important to the nerdosphere. First is with all the Star Wars hype going on this week, we learned that Admiral Akbar's voice actor, 93-year-old Eric Bowersfield, passed away last Sunday. Also, actress and screenwriter Barbara Turner passed away on Tuesday. And if that name doesn't sound familiar, she was Jennifer Jason Leigh's mother, and she was, I guess she was a pretty popular screenwriter back in the day. She wrote for this drama called Georgia, and pseudonymously the screenplay for Cujo.
What?
Yeah.
Oh,
so she wrote, she had the original screenplay, and she retained Stephen King's original ending, but I don't remember how Cujo ended, but I think it was pretty gruesome.
It was dark.
So they brought someone in to build off of her script and changed it.
Wow.
So she changed her name on the script, so you didn't know it was her. So may both of them rest in peace.
Put my name on your pile of shit.
Right? She was like, I won't sign off on it. I won't. So now we're to our favorite section, Game of Thrones. So thankfully the RIP segment was short. Now on to brighter things like Game of Thrones. When George R.R. Martin made his year-in-review blog post on Not a Blog on New Year's Eve, after dragging his feet for a few hours, he finally came out and admitted that The Winds of Winter wasn't going to be wrapped up before the premiere of Season 6 of Game of Thrones. He stated that he can't write under pressure, and the closer he got to his several deadlines, the less he wrote. So he was really relieved when he finally admitted it, and all his fans, were more understanding that he thought they were going to be. So it was like this huge pressure.
Put away our tars and our feathers.
So it was like this huge pressure was off of him. So what do you think he's been doing with his time now that the pressure's been off?
I would hope writing, but I would think probably eating and watching old Jets clips.
They had just done this right. So if you said writing The Winds of Winter, you'd be dead wrong. He has been helping folks in his artists collective develop an admittedly pretty cool interactive art display. It's a huge Victorian manor.
Wow.
That and I have to pull this up
Maybe
so you can see it.
Maybe he needs that background stuff to.
Yeah, so we lost the camera again. So we were talking about George Martin's funhouse that he's been helping create instead of writing The Winds of Winter. And it's cool. So it's a full-size Victorian manor art installation, and I believe it's interactive, and it follows the I'm presuming fictional Selig family. I tried doing a Google search to see if they were a real family. They were just making interactive display based off that, but I couldn't find anything. So so I'm presuming you follow the fictional Selig family who is missing, and there are interdimensional portals in the house, and so presumably that's how they came up missing, and I guess you tried to kind of solve the mystery or whatnot. So it looks pretty cool. I'm going to go ahead and put the link to, so you can see it in the link dump if you haven't already, and if you haven't seen it already, rather. And also, while you're doing it, just give George a holler.
Or don't. Because he does not respond well to pressure.
He doesn't. That's a bad idea.
Like, the guy's got to go to the bathroom to give his pee sample, but he can if he knows you're standing right outside the door.
Like, don't look.
Right.
Nobody's ever seen anybody pee in the history of peeing.
Right.
All right, so People.com reports that Aaron Carter and his wife had a Game of Thrones themed baby shower. And I'm just like, who does that? Because it's like they've never seen Game of Thrones.
Right.
It didn't look like they were all that into it.
What does this baby need? Murder.
Right? Because when you think what happened to, was she Talia or Talia?
Yeah.
And, Rob's wife, and they stabbed her.
Saw that shit went.
So, I love Game of Thrones themed everything, but I would never, as obsessive as I am, I would never do my baby shower that way.
My wedding, yes. But my
Definitely.
baby shower, no.
Like, it's a funeral anyway,
Right.
So
something's dying.
And that's from People.com, if I didn't say that. Moving on. Mathematicians at Malacaster College set out to determine who was the main character. Have you seen this already?
I have.
On Game of Thrones. So
I didn't read the article. It's so many headlines. I couldn't.
Yeah, it was all over the
from
internet. I'm like, there's no way she hasn't seen this. So they took a storm of swords, and then they looked to see who was mentioned within 15 words of another character. So you want to say who it is?
It's Tyrion Lannister.
Right, so it's Tyrion Lannister. According to the Storm of Swords, he was mentioned most frequently between 15 words of other characters. But I have to say that they just did a Storm of Swords. So
they didn't do all of the
books.
They
didn't do all of the books, so it'll be interesting. But to be honest, I really don't see it changing very much. But I would like to see if they would apply it to all of the main, because if you do like Duncan Egg and the Dance of the Dragon short story, yeah, and it would skew it, and they are important to the story, but they're not the main crux. So I think they just check the main books and see if it changes any.
Yeah, it'd probably be like Star.
Right, that's true. Plunging you and us further and further into podcast obscurity, Game of Thrones is getting an official post-show talk show called After the Thrones. It will star Andy Greenwald and Chris Ryan.
It's like, how dare they not ask us?
Who both previously ran the Watch the Thrones podcast, and it would air on Mondays through the HBO apps, HBO Go and HBO Now, as well as HBO On Demand. And I'm kind of, not just us, but I'm kind of disappointed that they didn't just pick up Game of Thrones.
Or was it Elio and the lady? I can't remember her name.
Oh yeah.
Because they're like the fucking historians.
Right, yeah. I don't know. Yeah, well.
And the guy that does hardcore Game of Thrones on How I Love, which is back. And I'll give you my login information if you want to listen. Yeah,
so it's probably a ponderous question, but I guess it's all in who you know.
Sexy.
Per Winter is Coming. And okay, that came from makinggameofthrones.com. So Per Winter is Coming.com. Macy Williams says that some fans won't like season 6 of the show, and she also tells us that water is wet.
Oh, but they like 5 and 4 and 3 and 2.
Winter is Coming also points our gaze to the Washington Post, who created several informative infographics dealing with the number of deaths that occurred in season 5. They were broken out by location and by individual. So how many locations? Huh?
What would that have to do with gays?
Did I say something about gays?
You said our gays.
Gays, G-A-Z-E.
So my head did.
Council of Drunken Fools.
I'm gay. I'm not kidding.
So they looked at which places had the most deaths occur in them and how many characters killed the most people. And then the total deaths per season, like how many seasons.
Yes. Okay.
Well, I didn't write down the answer, so. But season 5 was bloodiest, largely due to heart. That I do remember. But I'll put that in the link dump so you can look at them yourself. So our favorite fan site, which is Winter is Coming, also polled their users to see who they think is likely to die this upcoming season 6. So give me your top 3, Val.
Most likely to die this season. Okay, I'm going to go with Ramsay Bolton.
And do them in the order of likelihood. So most likely.
Okay, so then no, not him. Most likely to die. Shit, I don't know. I haven't really thought about it. Good question. Okay, I'm gonna go with Theon. Ramsay, and This will be controversial, I know, but Littlefinger.
Okay. So, users polled came up with Balin Greyjoy.
Yeah. I forgot this is not the books. He is still
Balin
alive.
Greyjoy was number 1. He barely edged out Ramsay.
Okay.
And surprisingly, number 3 was Roose Bolton.
They think Roose over Ramsay?
No, Roose under Ramsay. So it's Balin, Ramsay, Roose.
I don't see Roose.
Well, so I'm guessing, like, if this is winterscoming.net, it's probably a lot of book readers. Mm-hmm. And so apparently, you know, so you know that there's a theory that he's a vampire anyway, right? So he has already been alluding to the fact that he's dying, which is why he, you know, the theory that I read is why he's trying to get Barbary Dustin to be leader of the North. You know, he's not really looking for Theon to be the leader. He's trying to, you know, position her. So that's why I'm assuming that he placed that way. But there hasn't been anything to show that leads to that.
I definitely see Ramsay, him sacrificing Ramsay, but I do not see Roose.
Right. So, but what was surprising to me, at least, was that Robin, who is Robert Aaron, you know, they call him Robin in the show, was the least likely. He only got 1% of the vote. Like, I can see Littlefinger, you know, completely offing him. Like, at least he should have been in the middle. But he was very high.
There's no need to kill him off because he's going to die of natural causes eventually. Like, within the next few years. Like, with him, all you need to do is play the waiting game, literally.
Or just get on his nerves a lot.
Right. And then, and there's not enough lemon cakes and honey in the world to keep that little bastard alive.
Well, okay, so prevailing theory is that, and so since they didn't introduce Harry the Heir, they made Sansa marry Ramsay. I was surprised that they, you know, because she's still supposed to be ruling the, well, maybe not.
So she's going to end up being,
no, I'm wrong, because it completely negates, you know, the need for her to rule the Vale, because the whole point of her, you know, being revealed from the Vale, she's operating as Alice
Stone.
Is it Alice Stone? What's her name?
Alicent or something.
Alicent Stone. Is that, you know, they're gonna, you know, lift the curtain eventually, and say, oh, it's been Sansa Stark the whole time, and now she's getting ready to go back home.
No, but on the show, she's going to end up being the warden of the North and the lady of the Dreadfort.
Right. So, I mean, I'm just saying,
she's
you know.
She's going to kick not Littlefinger. She's going to kick Ramsay out, and the White Walkers are going to get him, and he's going to be a White Walker.
Who said that? You?
I said, yeah.
I think that he's going to fight Jon Snow. It's the Battle of the Bastards.
I said Roose.
Roose. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. All right. Okay, so I dig that. But I was just saying, you know, this is where I'm wrong in presuming that the show would kill off Sweet Robin, is because the whole point of Littlefinger doing it in the books is because Sansa is there and she's going to be revealed as Sansa in the Vale.
But I see that happening in the books, but I don't see Littlefinger killing Sweet Robin off in the books or in the show because you don't have to kill him off.
Well, so there's a reason why he's positioning her to be betrothed with Harry the Heir.
Right.
Because he wants her to be in charge of the Vale, to have more strength to go back to Winterfell. And Harry the Heir can't be the heir unless Sweet Robin.
I get that, but so I know.
So he's going to lead him to die, is what I'm saying.
Right. I was going to say, so I know in the winter they have him as this pimply teenager, but at the end of the Dance of Dragons, he's telling the Maester, well, you know, maybe give him a little bit more. Sweet, a little bit of hot. So like he's gonna die.
Right. And that's what when I said
they're to kill him. Really, when I'm saying he's gonna die of
I'm just you know, I'm not saying killed off. You know, I'm saying it figuratively.
Okay,
you know how when
being
written off.
Right.
You know, yeah. So I'm thinking, you know, he's gonna have him off some way. Like you said, he's so sick. The work is gonna be done for him.
One good seizure in
in the run, just over the moon door. It's like, oh, sweet Robin,
You
let me
want to
catch you.
fly? Okay.
They're like, oh, sweet Robin, oh, you ever seen him at the moon door? Oh,
You
let me
saw
catch you.
him. You saw him, season.
I was trying to reach him.
Fitz, the call the fit.
Yeah, he was having a fit, yeah. Okay, so again, from Winter is Coming, Peter Baelish actor Aidan Gillen says that, and he can admit, although we know that if Littlefinger were real, he would not admit this, that he made a miscalculation in betrothing Sansa to Ramsay Bolton. So it'll be interesting to see if the book Littlefinger kind of has this regret when he finds out what's happening to Faria. Yeah. Speaking of Ramsay, Iwan Rheon, who plays Ramsay Bolton, says that we will see changes in his behavior, in his character. Not his behavior, in his character. Though he did say it's not going to be like good changes. He's not going to change to someone partially redeemable. But he does try to play him with a little more depth. So Mother's Day is next month. So let's do a couple of mom-related items. First, from the New York Daily News, Christian Nairn says he almost did not take the role of Hodor.
Really?
Right.
He just says Hodor?
Well, it was his mom who convinced him because he told her, it's already hard enough him being a 7-foot tall gay man in Britain. People already look at people like him like they're less than and they're these dumb oafs. And he just felt like he would be contributing to that stereotype if he took the role. But fortunately for him and for us, his mother is a huge Game of Thrones fan. And having read the book, she was like, no, let me tell you who Hodor is, what he is, and why he's important. And so her sitting down with him is what convinced him to play the role. So Mother's Day is coming up. Let's all make sure to send Mama Nairn a dozen roses.
Amen.
So Carice Van Houten, who plays Melisandre, says that her mother would have been jealous of her nude scene with Kit Harington. And I think
she's having a baby.
Yeah, she's having a baby. But I think we're all her mom right now because we all would have killed to have been her at that moment.
Only if he was also naked.
I kind of think it's hot to be naked if they're clothed, but not the whole way, just at first. Okay, because the internet can be rad, someone gave, and I really don't want to waste our listeners' time, but I really have to show this to you. And let me reduce this one. You know what I'm thinking? That the camera turned off, not because we switched. What's going on here? Not because we switched, but because maybe it only has an hour. So
turn this shit up.
So somebody gave the Red Wedding the Walking Dead finale treatment. And I need for you to see this, Fallon, so you can understand exactly. Okay, so this is not it. Exactly why I am frustrated. About it. And I paused because I was trying to read. I don't know why this is doing this, because I want to keep this open so we can make sure we're still recording. All right, so you have to look at this and just put your mind into what if this had happened during this scene. So probably have that funky, slow internet again. Right?
I feel I'd be remiss in my duty. I've given you meat, wine, music, but I haven't shown you the hospitality you deserve. My king has married, and I owe my new queen a wedding gift.
So goddamn sick of this camera. It's past midnight. We should have been wrapped this up. So sick of this camera. We're not touching it. We're not moving it anyway. So we finished watching the Game of Thrones clip, and she agrees that it's a sucky way to end a season, an episode. So we were steadily going on and on about this next item, not realizing that the camera had gone off. So I was telling her that a writer on moviepilot.com has written a theory about who is going to be one of the dragon riders, one of the two other dragon riders for Daenerys' 3 dragons. And so he talks about, it makes it seem like he has knowledge of the books, but he does reference the show. And he says in the show that that Daenerys went to the House of the Undying, and that was the place where all the warlocks, they had the purple lips, and they gave her a prophecy. And part of the prophecy, she saw her oldest brother, Rhaegar, not the one that had the molten gold on his head, but the brother that you don't know that she has. So her older brother, Rhaegar, she saw him with his wife, Elia Martell, holding their child, Aegon Targaryen, and saying, he's the prince that was promised, but there must be 2 more because the dragon has 3 heads. And so from that, folks who watch the show probably, and people who read the books definitely have been trying to figure out who the other 2 dragon riders are, because here comes Daenerys, 16, 17 years later with 3 dragons. So, the writer says that, the easy picks are, Jon Snow, which is a spoiler, sorry, and Tyrion Lannister. But he wanted to put forth his own theory in saying that he feels it's the baby Aegon Targaryen. And so he goes and...
Aegon.
Well, he says Aegon. Did I say Aegon?
He said Aegon. Yeah.
Aegon Targaryen. So, Aegon is a completely different card from way in the way back. So Aegon Targaryen, which is the baby. And so he starts explaining why. And so he goes through the history of Rhaegar and his wife and him believing the prophecy and how the baby was killed, and he feels like the baby was whisked away and he's been held up somewhere until the right moment. And it just boggled my mind because he never mentioned Fagin. And so because he knew all the backstory, we know he got it from the books because they have not mentioned an Aegon Targaryen or Fagin in the show at all. They've completely cut him out. So why he would talk about this as a possible dragon rider and not say, I know this because it happened in the books, like he never says it. And it's a plot that's happening right now in the books. It's important because there's going to be a second Dance of the Dragons, and it's highly likely that Fagin is going to be part of it.
May I mention something that I don't ever see anyone, like even on the forums, talking about?
Mm.
Okay, so Rhaegar Targaryen is saying that there must be 3 heads because he feels like he has to have 3 children to ride the dragon.
Right.
Well, he didn't just lose 1 child, he lost 2 children. He never thought about Daenerys riding a dragon.
Right. Well, he was thinking that there has to be 1 more because he had a daughter already. So it's going to be the daughter. And he hadn't lost either one of his children.
Right.
When he said
But then he also did not prophesize his sister having the dragons. So how would he even think that all of his children would be dragon riders?
Arrogance is all I can think of. Like because he was so
I mean,
upset.
to me, that means like it doesn't matter if it's Egan or Fagin because none of the people who were supposed to have dragons in the first place.
I agree with that. I do agree with that. But I just, to answer your question directly, I just feel like because at first he thought he was the prince that was promised.
But then he realized that he wasn't.
Right, and so, but he knew it was going to come from his line. So his oldest child is it Rhaenys?
But not always, but he still partially had it wrong. It was his line, but issue.
Right, no, I understand that he was completely off the mark. I get that. I'm not going to argue that. I'm just saying that's why, he just was kind of narrow-sighted as to that because...
As to why he had to have the amount of children that he had.
Right, because he already, his first...
Is that right?
His first child was a girl.
Right.
So he knew that she could not be the prince that was promised.
He probably wasn't even looking for a son.
No, he probably was. Well, he knew. He felt like, okay, if it wasn't me. That's why he kept putting his wife in mortal danger, knocking her up. Because he knew that if the prince that was promised was not him, like the line was narrowing. They knew it was going to come from Jaehaerys' line. Right. And so that line was narrowing because Aegon V left. Right, because, Jaehaerys was Aegon V's son, and he killed most of his son in the tragedy at Summerhall. Jaehaerys, barely escaped with Aerys and Rhaella. So the line was narrowing, so he knew, Viserys was, he should not have discounted Viserys. Right. But he felt like he knew it was going to be him. So that was his narrow-sightedness. So when he realized it was not him, then it couldn't have been Viserys or from Viserys' issue. It had to have been him. So he knew it was going to be his son, and that's why he kept knocking up Elia, even though they knew she really couldn't carry children. And so that's why, he knew it was just going to have to be one more child because he knew it had to be a prince, and his first child was not a boy. Now, did he know Aegon was going to be a boy? No, but he had to take his chances. And it just so happened. So that's why he said only one more, because bam, I've got my boy. So here's the prince that was promised right there. And now I have to make another kid.
Right,
so
because he's got to mimic the conqueror.
Right. But
he probably wasn't even looking for another son.
No, he just wanted, because it could have been another girl, because that was, Aegon the Conqueror. It was him and his two sister wives. So I don't even think he would have cared if the third baby was a girl, because it would have perfectly mimicked when the Conqueror took over.
I just think it's weird that you always hear these theories, but you never hear, but he never factored in that Daenerys was going to have the dragon egg.
I think
because you never hear. Well, I don't want to say that because I kind of remember something. I do and I don't. But did Rhaella or Aegon ever have? They didn't have
they were because
or was it Rhaenys?
I think
it's Rhaenys, right?
Yeah, it was the little girl.
Yeah.
No, I think the last dragon eggs that the Targaryens had in there.
How are they gonna ride?
Well, okay, so Rhaegar, I'm guessing, must have been speaking figuratively, because he could not have known, because the last eggs that the Targaryens had, Aegon V took with him to Summerhall. Right. So they were destroyed. You're right, so they were destroyed. So he had to have been thinking, like, and this is my assumption, that, Aegon was going to be the figurative dragon, and so the other two had to, so they were going to be powerful with or without dragons. That's the best that I can come up with, because he couldn't have known, because the last dragon eggs were destroyed. But to your point, I do agree that, that's something that should be examined, is like, how could he be so arrogant to discount, like, he still has two siblings that are of Jaehaerys' line. Right. So Jaehaerys is the second, I should say. So, excuse me. So he was quite arrogant, but he was just convinced. Because he was so convinced at first that it was him.
Almost ruined the whole goddamn world.
He almost ruined it. Yeah, he almost brought Westeros to his knees off an assumption. Because he didn't know. He didn't know, he knew that his wife, like the first pregnancy, almost took it out of her. And he didn't know, of course they had no idea with the second pregnancy that, the mace was going to say, one more and she's dead.
But they had to know that she was going to be delicate, so he couldn't keep trying to get a son on her. So he had no idea, the sex with the sex of the baby. He was really taking a risk. So it was irresponsible. But I'm just, I can't get over this dude just completely.
Yeah, like
just not
because you kind of pick up instantly that this may not be the actual child,
right,
in the book. So for him to not mention it, it's like, well, you don't really have to. Like a lot of the theories and stuff I miss because I don't dig. I'm like I'm just a consumer. I just kind of eat them
and don't digest.
But you didn't have to do that with the whole. Young Griff chapters. It was pretty much playing out there for you.
Right. Especially him perhaps not being an authentic Targaryen.
Right.
Because of where he's coming from and the whole promise of Bittersteel.
Right.
To put, a Blackfire
on the throne.
Like, and a point I was going to make before we realized that, the camera wasn't rolling is that George Martin really makes a point of saying that the male line of the Blackfires, and the Blackfires were the legitimized bastards of Aegon IV, Aegon the Unworthy, who had a whole bunch of bastards and legitimized them before he died, and he gave their ancestral Valyrian steel sword, Blackfire, to the oldest bastard, who was Daemon Targaryen, Daemon Blackfire. And so he started a rebellion because he felt like, his brother was bookish, where he was a true warrior. He was the one who got the sword. He should sit the throne. Right. He was legitimized. And so they were kind of shunned, and, whoever, survived the Blackfire rebellions, they were shunned to Essos, including Daemon's brother. It's not Aegon, what is his name? Bittersteel. What's Bittersteel's name?
It was Aegon.
It's probably Aegon then. And so
Aegon Rivers.
Yeah. So he's the one who developed the Golden Company and promised that he was going to put the Bittersteel. So he was going to put a descendant of Daemon Blackfire on the Iron Throne, and so because of that, George Martin constantly writes that, but how could this be? Because the male line fizzled out, completely ignoring that there may be females there. Completely, they could birth. Yeah, they can birth another. There's so many people that are, of Valyrian features, from Volantis and Lys and all that, that you could plausibly, have, someone who was blood of the dragon come from that, and control one of Dany's dragons. So it's important. I just hate that it seems like he's trying to make it seem like this is something he came up with on his own, which is ridiculous because how long has it been since Dance of Dragons been out? Like, it's been out years and years and years and years. So it just irritated the hell out of me. Okay, so finally, before we get to who gets the tinfoil crown, I have to say that HBO has released the official Season 6 Episode 1 title. And it's called The Red Woman, and the description, which unequivocally states that Jon Snow is dead. This news comes from Tower of the Hand. And the internet, now that the official descriptions come out, they're like, oh, well, if HBO said it, then it must be true. And I'm just like, hang on, because of course, sure, Jan. Of course HBO is saying that he's dead because he's dead.
Right.
Jon Snow is dead. Kit Harington is telling the truth when he says he's dead. But that's not the end of the story. So, of course he's dead. You can't, so we're pretty sure he's going to be resurrected.
Right.
He's going to ward into ghosts and he's going to be resurrected. You cannot resurrect something that is alive.
Right.
So of course he's dead. Of course he's dead. But there was a whole reason why they showed Beric Dondarrion being resurrected as many times as he did. Unfortunately, you guys didn't get to see Catelyn Stark be resurrected as Lady Stoneheart, which they really should have shown to kind of drive home.
I mean, fuck Dorne.
Yeah. Because it was useless at this point. They got rid of the Queen Maker plot, and it was like, God, they're terrible. They only included Dorne so they can kill off Myrcella. Yeah. Like, that was it. That was the only point. That was the only reason. So, don't think that we're not going to see Jon Snow again alive and in action. Because, yes, he's dead.
He's coming back. That's the whole reason why Melisandre went back to the Wall. That's the whole reason why it's been written that, you know, the red priests and priestesses of R'hllor can resurrect people. They can give them the kiss of life and they come back. That's the whole freaking point.
Red Relu.
I don't even know how to pronounce it. Relu, okay.
Is that what Tormund calls it?
Oh, yeah, maybe. And also, Liam Cunningham was on Conan, and they were able to show an expanded clip of him drawing Longclaw.
I didn't watch it because I want to get home because I was at work and I was like,
well, can I tell you what happened?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so he draws Longclaw, and it looks like, you know, he draws it to fight the people in the room, but the people in the room are with him. Mm-hmm. And so you can see Sir Alistair Thorne and the mutineers on the other side of the door, and they're trying to break it in. So they're getting ready to fight them. All the while, Ghost, a very human expression looking Ghost, is got his, you know, his hackles are raised, ready to attack. So all signs are pointing to he's dead. For how long? Who knows? So don't worry. It's highly likely we'll see him again. So with that said, and we are at midnight 30. We're still going though. It took so long. It's a stupid camera. It didn't do that before. I just don't understand. I keep breaking my scepter. Who gets the tinfoil crown?
oh shit. I've got my papers here. This is gonna crack journalism. Let me take my headband off so that I can place the crown on top of my head. I don't want to put it anywhere near that cord.
Yeah, that's true. I want to have a bitch of a time. Aw, I wish I had some staples or something.
I think this is gonna stick in the head.
Oh. High production values here, folks. We are a high quality podcast.
It's all for you, Damien. Okay, so my first tinfoilery. Okay, so this theory is from Fresh Bags from Reddit. Rob equals Lady Stoneheart. Proof. Rob is a warg. Warg spirits fly everywhere once released from their primary human host, as evidenced by Varamir Sixskin's chapter in A Dance of Dragons. When Varamir dies, his spirit goes out into the woods and the animals until eventually landing on Thistle, a wildling woman who he had met up with after Stannis smashed the wildling army.
Right.
When he attempts to walk with her, she fights him by clawing at her eyes, much the same way Catelyn claws at her eyes after killing the simple Frey boy. And I don't remember his name, unfortunately.
Jingle Bell.
Jingle Bell, yeah. Notable evidence, Rob says Grey Wind before dying, but he can't warg into him because Grey Wind has been killed. The ghost of High Heart's vision about Cat. Dead she drifted with red tears on her cheeks. Description of Thistle fighting off Varamir Sixskin's attempt to warg. A mad woman danced blind and bloody underneath the moon, weeping red tears. So the theory is that Lady Stoneheart is so bitter, not just because of she's Catelyn and her whole family has been killed, but because it's also Rob and the war that he's lost, the fact that he's died. And another piece of evidence that I didn't write down was the fact, the way the way Lady Stoneheart holds the crown in her hands.
It's like the way Rob would.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I like it.
It's a lot of holes.
Because alright, so when Varamir Sixskins warged into Thistle and she fought him, and he eventually subdued her, correct?
Correct.
Alright, but then something...
Does he? Yeah, he does, and then the White Walker gets her.
Right, I was like, because she ended up dying, and so the whole prologue was to show the danger, for us to worry about with Jon of being stuck in an animal for too long.
And trying to work another unit.
Right. And so Varamir Sixskins was desperately looking for someone. Like, he went into that the big one-eyed wolf to try and find someone to work into. It was like, oops, it's too late. And he was stuck. But Catelyn, like, if I can see Rob choosing his mother's vessel, even if he did that, she died immediately after. When Thistle died, he had to find another suitable host immediately. Catelyn was dead in the water for 3 days.
Right.
So it's not likely, if we're going to use Varamir Sixskins' experience as an example, then there's no way Rob could be her, because she died immediately. If she didn't die before him, she died immediately after. And, well, she died after because that's the reason why she killed Jingle Bell. But she died. And
was in the water for 3 days.
And was in the water for 3 days. Died dead. So I like it, but I just don't see it as being possible.
Okay, this second one comes from Purz, P-U-R-Z, from Reddit.com. It says, too lazy to find evidence of proof, but this is the theory. Lady Stoneheart kills Jaime. The brothers without banners somehow connected to the faceless men, and Jaime's body ends up in their hands. I'm sorry. Arya finds his face on the wall and goes back to King's Landing as Jaime, where she stabs Cersei in the back, fulfilling the Valon prophecy as Jaime, because Cersei is pulling a Mad King 2 and talking about burning everything down. Quote, this gives us Cersei technically dying to her brother, like the prophecy says. It's repeating itself, and Arya killing the biggest name on her list.
I love that. I do. I love it. And I really like them tying in her burning the whole city down, because she burned down the Tower of the Hand.
Yeah.
And I can see her.
Like, yeah.
I can see her
like, that's
redoing it.
Nah,
I can see her redoing it the more paranoid she gets. Even if she somehow, wins this trial by combat, which she would have to, for that. I can see it. I like that one. I like it.
Okay, I've got one more. I've got a couple more, but I don't understand my serial killer handwriting, so I've got to figure those out. Okay. But this one comes from House_Badger on Reddit.com. It says, I've had an old theory lingering ever since the first time I read the passage concerning Val and John talking about Shireen's grayscale. It's about the one where Mel sees skulls around Patchface. It's quite simple. Patchface has grayscale now from Shireen. Patchface dances with lots of people during a feast in a dance with dragons. Now lots of people have grayscale. Chill Zero, who gave us the gash comment about Varys from last week, chimed in and says, and no one can tell because his face is tattooed. Oh, I know.
Oh, okay. So, from previous
because Patchface danced with everybody during Alice Karstark's wedding.
Right. And so, the theory that we read a couple years ago was that the reason why Val was so insistent that Shireen die or be sent away I don't know if she said to die, but she should not be with everybody.
She said to kill her would be a mercy, I think.
Right, because grayscale, there's no such thing. Yeah, there's no such thing as grayscale stopping.
Right.
It's simply
there's no cure.
There's no cure. Right. And so eventually it's going to wake from its dormancy, and she is going to take everybody with her. And so people were saying, that they felt like what was going to confound the next long night was that, you were going to have dragons in, I guess, in the west, because that's where Danny's going to come from. And then you're going to have White Walkers in the north. And while you're trying to deal with the dragons and the White Walkers, holy shit, Shireen her grayscale has started up again, and now you're going to have a severely decimated fighting force because they're suffering from grayscale. And so we learned that George Martin had always intended for Shireen to be burned at the stake, like what happened last season on Game of Thrones. So this would work even if he decides to go through with that and she burns, if she did give it to Patchface, and we can't tell because his face is tattooed.
And then some people say, well, that theory doesn't really hold water because grayscale still spreads to other part of your body. People will be able to see it on your hands, but I don't know if the slaving tattoos are not full body.
I think they're just on the face, but who's paying attention to Patchface?
And that's what somebody else said. Well, if it's not a highborn lord or lady, you just kind of see through them.
Right, because he's dropping
you only see what you expect to see.
He's dropping all this knowledge about Cthulhu coming back for their, and that's going to be another confounding thing. So he's dropping all this knowledge about y'all need to be paying attention to the sea because it's about to go down.
And it's like, I know because the shit is growing on my fucking
and they're not listening. If they're not listening to him about Cthulhu, damn sure they're not paying attention to him to see that grayscale is growing. Yeah. And you would think that because they're so self-assured and that they've cured Shireen's grayscale, and they would think, check her full every now. Oh, yeah, I like that one too.
That was my favorite. I got a couple more, but I couldn't read out my hair. I couldn't read my hair right.
Oh, that sucks.
So I'll have them for next week.
Oh, okay. So I don't even know who would crown because they were both pretty juicy. I really like that second one though. I really do. Like that's something I really want to see. Okay. Well, thus concludes a very frustrating to record episode of Council of Drunken Fools. We had a lot.
I'm over it. I'm never doing this again.
Oh, come on. We had a lot to discuss. We had a lot of good times once we got to the Game of Thrones section. And I can't say whether or not it was worth it for all the issues we were having with the camera.
All of the sections are pretty good. It just takes us so long.
And it's going to be a bitch to edit tomorrow, I swear. But, oh well.
Shit, I almost crashed my crown.
Yeah, well, you need to work on it soon. So, hopefully you enjoy, as shitty as it is raw, I'm going to do my best to edit it so that it's, it's not as painful for you guys. So hopefully you will have enjoyed this episode. Hopefully you will spread the word, and join folks to, watch us and give their input. And if you guys have anything you want to promote that's nerd related, if you're an independent artist, do anything like cosplay or anything like that, which is within our realm, send us a note. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, we're everywhere. And you may be featured. So I'm Ken.
And I'm Beth.
And we're the Nirdy Birds. And this has been episode 2 of Council of Drunken Fools. Look forward to seeing you next Saturday.
Good night.